Here she comes, our next keynote speaker, Elaine Rodrigo. Please welcome her on stage.
Thank you.
Chief Strategy and Insights Officer from Danone in France.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Happy to be here, and I think I'm standing in between you and a break. But anyway, so as was introduced, my name is Elaine Rodrigo, and I'm Chief Strategy and Insights Officer for Danone, based in Paris. So basically, I take care of a function that looks after everything to do with consumer insights and data and analytics. Okay, so happy to be here. And today, I'm going to look at this clicker. Where is it? Today, I'm actually this particular presentation is probably going to take a slightly different slant, so I hope you're ready for this and okay with it. Because I was just thinking back, and I'm not sure I have any numbers in this deck that I'm about to share. But maybe that's why they asked me to speak today. But I wanted to speak about getting predictive and how we can actually leverage social intelligence for trends prediction. And it's something that we've just started doing in Danone, and I'm very happy to share with you today. And what do I mean by social intelligence? And there is data in here, I promise, but it's really about how we are using unstructured data from consumer conversations that are openly shared, right, and fully compliant to really understand what's going out there and what's trending, and to feed it back into the organization to make sure that we are on trend in terms of what we're doing with innovation. Okay, so maybe first a little bit about Danone. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the company, but we're on a mission. So in Danone, we're on a mission, we're a food company, to bring health through food to as many people as possible around the world. And we compete in 4 health-focused businesses, right? We are probably most well-known for our dairy division. So we have a dairy and a plant-based division with brands like Activia, Danone, of course, but also new brands like Alpro and Silk in the US, right, in the whole plant-based area. A baby division with brands like Aptamil and Cow & Gate. A waters division, very strong in emerging markets with brands like Mizone in China and Aqua in Indonesia, or Bonafont in Mexico. And also we have an advanced medical nutrition division where we look at Fortimel and things to do with people who are having certain, I guess, nutritional difficulties in life, right? But I might ask a question of all of you, but I don't know if you all know where the very first Danone yogurt was made and where it was invented. Does anybody know? Okay, because I didn't know, to be honest, until I joined. So we're in that country. So the first Danone yogurt was invented in Spain, in Barcelona, 100, and the company Danone, right? Our company turned 100 last week, actually, on the 8th of March. So 100 years old, when the very first Danone yogurt was actually created in Barcelona, in Spain. I thought that was just a bit of a fun fact, seeing that we are in Spain today. So the thing, though, is that when you look at what we're trying to do, we're trying to drive health, right? We're trying to drive nutrition, and of course, we're trying to drive growth, which is what every FMCG company, every company is really after these days. In order to do that, while you want to drive health, you want to drive nutrition, but in the end, we're in a food business, and the most important thing is to understand trends in food and drink, right? And what's happening in that space. And if you look around the world, honestly, there's so much you can do in transporting, and we've been doing this in Danone for some time. Probably in most companies, right? I joined the company about 2 years ago, and we were doing our usual transporting, so we work a lot with Kantar. So Andy before here was from Kantar, but we work a lot with Kantar around transporting. So, your usual thing, right? You look at Kantar data, you look at what's happening with Mintel. Once a year, maybe when you have your strategic planning process, you do a nice deck, or maybe when you have an innovation or ideation session, you have a look at what are the trends that are out there. And you make sure that whatever you're doing, you strongly start with what's happening with consumer trends. However, when I started, I was thinking there might be a different way of doing this. There was nothing wrong with doing transporting, and we did it, and I think we did it fairly well, okay? But the thing is that when you really look at what's going on in food culture, and it says your food culture is the dominant culture at the moment. If you speak to people from Instagram, they'll tell you, I think something like maybe 2/3 of all the pictures that are posted these days are people posting pictures of food. I think the rest of it is travel, right? But, food culture is a dominant culture, and people are sharing information about it. The other thing is it's also quickly evolving. So doing transporting, looking at reports once a year may not really cut it. So we started asking ourselves, how can we do this in a much more real-time, always-on, agile way, right? And then we thought, what better way, maybe, to leverage what we call the world's largest focus group If you think about it, there are 3.4 billion users out there who are sharing pieces of content and information with all of us every minute, right? Things that they want to share openly, obviously being very careful about privacy in this case, but could we leverage all this information that consumers are already sharing today openly, and is there something that we can learn from that? Interesting, right? So what did we do? We decided to leverage two things. We started off with social listening, and then we moved on into what we call social prediction, right? So maybe let's start with social listening. We have a system that we've been using in Danone for about 4 or 5 years called Redali. And with our partner called, a French company called Linkfluence, who we've worked with for a number of years. And with this, we've been really listening around specific topics for a number of years now, and getting some great information that's been feeding things like digital KPIs in our Datorama dashboards, etc. But you know what? I think an interesting happened when we started looking at social listening from an insights perspective and saying, what can we do in terms of learning about consumers and people out there on a more regular basis? So we started looking at social listening to try to understand what we could learn about insights. So to give you one example, this is from last year, but through social listening, we realized that in Spain, a lot of conversations about yogurt was about lactose-free. How do I find lactose-free yogurt? Where can I find it? Things were starting to spike. And therefore, we actually launched an Activia lactose-free version last year in Spain and changed the breakfast bowl in Spain. Another example of leveraging, social listening or what consumers are talking about is on Activia. Right? Activia is one of the biggest yogurt brands within Danone, and traditionally you probably all remember them more in tubs, these green tubs, right, of yogurt. But there are a few trends going on now. I mean, you look here, firstly, probiotics is hugely searched. In fact, if you go and look up #probiotics, you find all kinds of stuff on Instagram. And just by looking there, we got lots of insights about what people actually define as probiotics, which, by the way, quite different from how our scientists and nutritionists actually define it. But, that's what consumers think they are, right? So probiotics, gut health, hugely trending at the moment in conversation with consumers. And the other thing was this shots format, right? Think about it, on-the-go shots, a quick kind of probiotic shot, and this resulted in the launch of this particular product, an Activia probiotic shot. Another example of leveraging trends on Volvic. This is in Germany, right? One of our water brands, and this is really harnessing and leveraging the trend of organic. Right? So if you see there, you see a bio, that's organic, symbol in France. And I think in Europe, but anyway, but leveraging the organic trend, but also there's another trend around botanicals and about anything that's really natural looking. I mean, if you look at the colors, if you look at the style, it is much more in line with what people perceive or how people actually look at health and nutrition today. And finally, one example, Alpro. This is one of our new plant-based brands, but really on-trend, plant-based diet. Veganism is going mainstream. Flexitarianism is what we call it, being a flexitarian, which means having more of a plant-based diet. But there is so much that's happening in this space, and how can we constantly stay on trend in this area? Social listening is playing a huge part, right? So the thing is, I've shared a few examples of how we, went from trend spotting on an annual basis, looking at reports, to looking at always-on and real-time trends through social listening. And then we thought, that's good, but how can we start getting predictive? Right? Because social listening is still about the conversations that are going on right now, which is amazing because then you're always on. But now, how can we utilize AI to look at the data to actually start predicting which trends are going to become big in the future, to actually understand where is the tipping point? Yeah? And for that, we've actually been working with a company called Black Swan out of the UK, when what they do is you look at different types of conversations. So every single yellow dot in this chart is actually a conversation by somebody. And it's actually plotted, right? It's an algorithm to understand the stages of a trend going from dormant, so it's low volume of data with negligible growth, so it's a very weak signal. When something is emerging, by the way, this is when it starts getting interesting. It's still low volume, but it's starting to grow a lot. okay, 500 times, let's say, over a short period of time. That's when you usually want to start having a look at it. Then when it's growing, high volume with a positive rate of growth, this is where you kind of need to be there, because otherwise you're missing. The thing is, in the past, what happened is if you do transporting just by going out, and that's also very useful and going out and about, by the time you see it in a supermarket, your local supermarket, it's already here. And it's too late, right? So as companies, we need to catch it when it's this side. At the same time, if you catch it when it's too early, sometimes it's too niche as well. And obviously, then it's also important to know when the conversations are starting to fade, because then you need to understand why. Do we need to rejig it? Do we need to come up with something else? So through this system, this is new for us. We are looking at how you can use algorithms, playing around with data, but also different types of data at different points. And we've actually also, it actually comes as a SaaS tool as well. So we're actually empowering people from within the organization to be able to play with this, to become much more agile transporters on a day-to-day basis. So this is an example of something I've just downloaded, essentially from the Blackstone website. But you can see, for example, it tells you which are kind of the big one. It kind of ranks which are the trends that are popping up more. In this case, reusable packaging, you all know, because of the plastics conversation, the sentiment, gluten-free, etc. And all of that, you get this kind of information. And we are starting to use this more now with trying to predict trends. So really, I guess where I wanted, as I kind of come to the close of this short keynote, really when you look at data, my approach to data at the moment and tech within the company is that we call it humanizing data, right? Data is amazing, and tech, it helps us do so much more. But if we do not humanize it, in a creative way, to turn it into human insights that the company can use, it just doesn't go anywhere, right? So, what we try to do with everything we do is try to somehow bring the data and the machine together with the human side to actually create what we call it #humanized data in terms of what we do, to create insights that we believe can drive growth, right? So I come to the end. Hope you enjoyed that, but really about our journey from from trend spotting to always on trends, from social listening to trends prediction. And I just want to end off by sharing with you a short video about how actually learning about trends can also be a little fun.
This is bullshit. Hi, my name's Riley. I'm going to take care of you today. So welcome to the Confusion Kitchen. So our kitchen is holistic organismic, which means basically we're trying to stay up with the latest food trends. So right now we are biodynamic, low-carb, raw food only. I'll be right back to talk you through everything. All right?
Menu changing.
Yes, chef. So you guys probably heard the kitchen is changing. So we are paleo now, I hear from the chef. So it's all high protein, and we're combining with slow food techniques. All right? Be back with that in a second. So the first we have our ostrich egg, and then the duck is coming very soon. I'm just going to slowly roast that for you, madam.
So you are now in the process of cooking the egg, or what is it? I have no idea. We need a spoon. Menu change again.
Thank you, chef. So guys, menus change as you heard. So bad news is meat is off the menu, but the good news is gluten is back. So we've got pizza or pasta. I'll put you a little menu there. There you go. You want to do that last bit? There you go.
Liz String.
All right, guys, here is the latest food trend in town. Say hello to Karma Foods. So the idea of this one is that you give your food a bit of compliment before you eat it.
I don't want to eat the little goldfish.
Great news, guys, it is a kombucha rave. So we're all liquid now. It's kombucha shots on the house. It's fermented mushroom. You're going to love it. Kombucha shot for yourself. Get on board the kombucha rave. Got that for you. There you are. You want to take that? And that one for yourself, madam. See that mirror right there? There's two cameras behind each one of those.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be around for the rest of the day and tomorrow if you have any questions. Enjoy your break.
Thank you very much, Elaine.